Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good week. So this week, in this tutorial, we're going to focus on the range slider. In this range slider, we're going to see that we're going to focus on ranges between years. Range sliders usually do that. They help the user play around with graphs and charts when you have to choose data or values between certain ranges. So it could be years, it could be temperature, it could be any number that has a range between A and B or X and Y. And so this range slider is going to be connected to a bar chart, and we're going to play around with the years, giving the user the capability to choose data between certain years. Here is between 1996 and 2016. We're going to do this with the bar plot, and we're going to do this all in Python using dash by Plotly. If you do not have dash by Plotly, you can click on the card above on the upper right side of this video. It has a playlist, Dash Interactive Graphs, and the first video in that playlist is how to install Dash inside an interactive virtual environment. And that'll take you about 5-10 minutes, and then you can actually create all of this in about 10 minutes using Python alone. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this data. You also have it in the video below in the description. Just open the description and click on the links. And we're going to focus on all the border crossings into the United States. So we're going to focus on column F, the measure. I think we're going to do personal vehicles only. We're going to focus on date and only 2 states, Idaho and Vermont, I think it was. Let's see. Yes, Idaho and Vermont. So we're going to use this data, make sure to download it, and then make sure to open the code as well from the GitHub and open it as well so you have it with you while we're moving along. All right, so let's start. First of all, you want to import these libraries. Let's say you install Dash by Plotly, you import all these libraries, make sure you install these versions and then in the virtual environment or similar versions. So it won't mess up the code or have anything go wrong. We're going to start the app here. This tells you a little bit about where the data came from, the Bureau of Transportation Statistics in this website on Kaggle. Here I'm just filtering the data quickly. I'm just entering the CSV document into a pandas data frame. I'm given the date column. I'm turning it into a pandas date column. And I'm only going to take the year because remember here you have March 1st, 2019. So I don't care about the months and days. For this purpose of this tutorial, we're only going to focus on the year. So I'm going to extract the year in that same column. And then I'm going to create the date. I'm going to make the date the index of that data frame. Just easier to manipulate. All right, so this is going to be the layout. This is how the web page looks like. Again, this is all in Python. Very quick. In 10 minutes, you can create your own data visualizations. So this is the first part. It's going to be the graph. Then we have the small little title above the ranger slide just to tell it to choose years between certain ranges. And then we have the range slider right here. We're going to go over all this. We're going to go into a deep analysis of what a range slider can do in Python in Dash by Plotly. But before we do that, let me show you what else. This is where the layout ends. We finish here. And all this is how you connect the range slider to the bar plot. Now, I'm not going to go over this because it's in the card above on the upper left side, I think, or right side of the video. You can click on it. You see the playlist. It has a bunch of videos about interactive graphs in Dash, and all those videos go over how I connect, or how you can connect a Dash component, in this case a range slider or a dropdown, to the main graph itself or the main chart. I think the 3rd or 4th video is a scatter plot with the range slider, so it's a very similar one. You can look at that as well. So we're not going to go into this right now. This is where we create the bar chart, the x-axis, the y-axis, and this is really all you need to know. In the data frame, we're going to focus on Vermont and Idaho, and we're going to only focus on personal vehicles based on what the user chooses from the range slider. So again, you can see this in a different video. Here, we are now going to focus on everything that the range slider can offer you. All right, so the range slider. First, you want to give it an ID. Actually, before I go into this, this is the link that you should also open under the video. This is the RangeSlider example and references under the dash core component. So you can read different examples here and different explanations of what each property means inside that component. We're actually going to go over all the properties right here. All of these. This is the bottom of the page. All of these we're going to see. The only thing we're not going to focus on, the only thing we're going to skip is the persistent type and the persistent, and this as well. These are just memories of the graph that's chosen, or the data that's chosen within the RangeSlider. We're going to go over that under the drop-down video, where you see all about the drop-down in Python, because this repeats itself in every component, so we're not going to go over this. All right, so all the rest of the things. Okay, so first you want to have the ID. You can call the ID anything you would like to call it. I'm going to call it my RangeSlider. Then you have the marks. The marks is a dictionary of key, right here, 1996, 2000, which actually represents the position of the mark on the slider. Let me show you here. So it's actually the key 1996 will be here, and then 7 will be here, and 8 and so far, because it knows that's the number. And the value of the dictionary, the value of that key, is going to be what you see. So 1996, it's actually a string. So I put 1996, but if I wanted to put A, then this is what you would see. You would see A right here instead of 1996. If I put B in 2000, you would see B right here instead of 2000. Okay, so these are the marks. If you want to style your marks, you can also style them. You have to create an object instead of this string. Instead of saying 2016 here, you have to create an object with label and style as its parameters. So the label is going to be the key, and the value is going to be 2016. And then the style is also going to have its own dictionary with a color and font weight. But you can style it however you want. And this I chose red and bold, which is why 2016 is red and bold right here on the right. Okay, so you saw a little bit of styling as well. Okay, so as you can see, I chose between 4 years, skipping 4 years, 1996, 2000, 2004, all the way to 2018. But I want the steps, the number of steps between the values, to be 1. So this is one of the parameters inside a RangeSlider. I chose 1. What this means is that you would see here a dot, or at least a capability. You would have the capability to step between 1996 and 1997, 1998. If I did not do that, if I choose step 2, then it would only have every 2 years. Let's see, step 2. Refresh this. So you see, now we don't have 1997. I don't even have that capability. Now it jumps all the way to 1998, 2000, 2002. If I put step 4, obviously I would not even have this in the middle. It would only be a steps of each year, 4 years. So Dash gives you that capability to decide how many years you want to step, or if you want to have values between the marks that you've chosen. So let's leave it at 2. I want the minimum and the maximum values in the RangeSlider. So I want the minimum to be 1996, but I chose the maximum to be 2016. I told it that it could go up to 2018 in the marks, but in reality, I want the marks only to go up to 2016, right here, you see? That's just because of my preference. Maybe later I want to add an if conditional line of code that says if user is from, I don't know, this area of the country, then they can see a maximum of 2018. So it's good that you can actually play around with what you want the user, or allow the user to see. Values, these are the handles. So each value, each integer inside the value list is actually handled. So that's why you see, if I do 1998 and 2000, that is why you see here on the right, you see 1998 and 2000. If I chose to put this at 2004, then you would see that handle in 2004, at least the second handle right here. Refresh. And now you see this in 2004. If I add one more handle, I can actually add handles. I've never really used more than 2 handles, but you can if you want. And if you add another handle, you have 3 handles. But then you have to play around with the data and how it interacts with the graph. So now I have 1998, 2004, and 2006, 3 different handles. And then you can move them around, right? However you want. Okay, so we're going to stick just with two handles. And then we go into the dots parameter. The dots allows you to see dots between the values. Remember, I chose the marks of 4 years between the values, 96, 2000, 2004, and so on and so on. So if I put dots false, this dot will disappear. You'll have no dots between the marks that I chose. But I do want to see those dots, so that's why I put true in there. You see? So now I have, I changed it to 2004. I actually wanted 98 to 2000, but that's fine. But you see there's no dots between the 4 years and the 4 years. You can still move there, but there's no dot. So I want it to be clear that the user can actually move there, so I'm going to put it in true. Allow cross. Well, you have only true or false options here, and it will allow you to manage handle crossover. So now, because this is false, you actually can't cross over. You have to stay here, and when you try to pull right, it won't cross over. If I do this true, then it will allow me to actually cross over, which I think is just a styling or a different feature for usability. I don't think it matters that much. But you see now, it doesn't get stuck, and I can move over to the left and to the right. Actually, it's not moving over, it's actually pushing it to the left, but that's because of pushable. We'll go into pushable for a sec. So, bad example right here, because pushable is on 2, but crossover, if it's true and there's no pushable, this will actually cross over to here, to here, to here, and it won't get stuck. All right, so let's put under crossover. Let's give it back to false. Disable false. This just means that if you put it true, you're actually disabling the handle. So a user can see all this, but they won't be able to touch anything or to move anything. It will be completely disabled. So obviously we're going to leave this at false. Pushable. So pushable is any number or true with multiple handles. This pushable means that, and again, maybe this is not the best explanation. I'm trying to write some examples for you. If you don't understand what it means, just go to pushable here and see what it means somewhere in here. Okay, so pushable means that it's not going to allow the years or the ranges to go under 2. So there's always going to be a distance of 2 years between the 2 handles. At least 2 years, right? So you see this 2000 and this 2002. I can't go to 2001. Even if I had that capability, I wouldn't be able to do that. Also, if you have another handle, if you have 3 handles, it'll actually push. If I'm moving this, it's going to push the other handle to the right. It's usually used for multiple handles, but it's also used with 2 handles where you don't want the user to go into 1 year. You always want to have a distance at least of 2. Okay, that's pushable. Play around with it. If my explanation was not perfect or you did not understand what I mean, change the pushable to a different number and see what you come up with. Add a value here so you have 3 handles and change the pushable to 3 and see, or 2 or 1, and see if that makes sense to you. Just play around with it, practice. Update, mouse up. This means you have 2 options. You have mouse up and you have drag. This means mouse up means that the graph will update only after I move the handle and lift the mouse. So right now I'm moving the handle, it's not doing anything, and I unclick, and you see how it updates. If I change this to drag, it would unclick before I actually lift the mouse. So it's a lot faster. The updates are a lot more in real time, regardless of the mouse. So if I move this, for example, to 2001, I'm not going to lift my mouse. I'm moving it, and you see how it updates, and I'm still with my finger on my mouse. So it's just a quicker way of updating things if that's what you want. But don't do that if your data takes time to update. I will just leave it on mouse up. Included true means you have true or false here options, and it highlights the handle. So if you actually put included false, you would not see the blue handle. It would only be these two yellow circles. You move this here, you will see the blue circle. Sorry, having difficulties with colors here. But because we put included true, you would see a blue everywhere between the two main handles. Vertical, you guessed it, if you put true, you would see this whole range slider. Instead of horizontal, you would see it vertical. So you would go from 1996 all the way down to 2000. And you can control the vertical height. This is pixels. So 900 pixels, you put it at 400 pixels, it'll be a lot smaller. Okay, so the last two things is tooltip and class name. Let's go into tooltip first. Tooltip is just gives you two options: allow visible, always visible, true or false, and then where you want to place a tooltip. Tooltip is this, right? What you see here on the right, you'll see the 1998, right? That's a tooltip, and you see that because I put always visible false. It means it's only visible when I click on it, and it just once I unclick, it's not there anymore. And it's going to be on the bot below it. If you put upper, it's going to be obviously above it, upper right. There's many different options. Look at the documentation. But this is a cool feature because you see there's no year here, and sometimes it's not clear. Sometimes it's not 2000, 2002. It's not clear the steps. It might be 1, 3, 9, 19. So if you don't want to have too many numbers under each dot, you just add a tooltip, so the user can actually look at it before they actually click on it. It's a cool feature, kind of a styling. The last feature of this range slider component is a class name. So this, every dash component has, it allows you to incorporate classes from CSS documents. So in order to use this, let me make this bigger, you need to have a CSS document. And you got to make sure that your CSS document is inside the assets folder. So look, the RangeSlider code is right here, is a RangeSlider.py. It's inside the RangeSlider file. You have to create, if you want to play around with a CSS document, you have to create inside this folder another folder called assets. And inside assets, just put the CSS document, styling. You can call it whatever you want. I call it styling CSS. I actually downloaded this from the internet, which I just Googled how to change colors over hover in a RangeSlider, and I found this. So I just copy pasted this into the styling document. And these, right, this is the most important part. This slider is actually the class name, slider, and then slider, hover. This is how it's dot slider. So I know that's the class name. So all I have to do is put under class name, instead of none, I'll put the string slider. And now it will allow me to, let's update this. Refresh. Now it should be grayish. You see, now we have this, and it changes color once you hover over it. Kind of cool. Usually this will be useful for more like drop downs or other date pickers. I'm not sure you can format, you would want to format sliders too much, or range sliders, but now you know how to incorporate a CSS document into a class name. You don't have to do class name. You could also say, let's put this back to none, and you could also put the style here. This is outside. This is the div that surrounds the range slider right here. I'm going to style it, and I'm going to say I want it to be only 50%. So I'm going to say style. So I'm going to limit the dictionary. I'm going to limit the range slider to 50, the width to 50%. Sorry, this 50%. And now if I save it, this is another way of styling the range slider without using CSS document. Let's go back, and now this should be only 50% of the width. There you go. So now you have it only 50% of the page. And every time, and it works, and it's great because every time you move the range slider, you see that the values on the bar chart move. Again, if you want to see more about how to connect a RangeSlider, now that you know all about it, to a bar chart or a scatter plot, just look at the interactive the playlist that I have of Dash interactive graphs on the card in the right above me. Again, the first video talks about how to install Dash, and all the rest talk about how to create these kind of interactive graphs. The one with the RangeSlider, I think, is the fourth video, is a scatter plot with a RangeSlider. So I hope this was helpful. Click the like button, tell your friends about it, share with the world, and I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, don't forget to subscribe, because every week I come up with a new video that you can learn more about the different Dash components and more about how to create cool, awesome data visualizations only by using Python. All right, so tip of the week. Tip of the week, I would really recommend that you use environmental, or you get used to creating your own virtual environments. Virtual environments are very important because they allow you to use your own libraries and your own versions and tie them to certain apps or to certain games that you create. So for example, if you're creating this RangeSlider with a bar chart, and we are using right here Plotly 4.5, and we're using Dash 1.8. So now it works perfectly fine. But let's say 6 months down the road, Dash updates to 2.5, and you update everything. You update all your Anaconda and all your Python libraries, which means you're updating this as well. And then you suddenly go in there and it's not working. You try and move something and the bar chart is broken because with Dash's update, they changed something in the code. So you want to make sure that if you have something that works, unless you test it, you don't want to change the version of its libraries. So for that to happen, you have to create your own virtual environment. That's how you control the versions of the libraries you have inside your virtual environment, inside that script or that app that you created. To learn more about how to create your own virtual environment using Anaconda and installing Dash, again, look at the playlist. It's the first video on the playlist. I think it's called Dash by Plotly, Install Anaconda Virtual Environment, and you'll learn a lot more about it. Again, hope you enjoyed. Hope you had a good day. And if you have any questions, write me in the video below in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say, what you think, any comments, any suggestions. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.